Well, he's coming out to represent the church.
Well, he's the husband of the minister. So anyway, getting back to the whole blasphemous libel thing, I was served with this demand letter in June of 2012, and it accused me of the criminal act of blasphemous libel.
So this is fairly recent. I mean,
Yeah, that's it. Is like they keep. That's the thing is they keep doing stuff to keep the kettle. Of course, what I'm getting at is they keep raising the ante, so I keep protesting. Instead of dealing like if they dealt responsibly with the issues, the protest would come to an end. But they don't want to deal with the issues. So anyway, getting back to the blasphemous libel, I had put up a few blog posts about.
So you have a blog then?
Yes, I have a blog.
So what's your blog then?
It's called The Emerson Avenger. It's based on a saying by Ralph Waldo Emerson, and we might have heard of him. And he was a famous Unitarian. He was a transcendentalist. He had a saying, slowly but surely cometh the Avenger. And by that he meant justice. So it might take a long time for justice to come, but eventually it arrives. So Avenger was his term for justice. So I titled the blog The Emerson Avenger based on that saying. Interestingly enough, Unitarian decided that this was the name of a transcendentalist superhero. So they decided that this was my name, the Emerson Avenger. So I've had a lot of fun with that too. But anyway, getting back to the blasphemous libel, in Canada we have this law prohibiting blasphemy. It's in the Canadian Criminal Code. You can be sent to jail for 2 years if you're convicted.
Really?
So this is not like small potatoes. It's serious stuff, exactly. And the head office in Boston, in other words, the headquarters of Unitarian Universalism in North America, hired this lawyer to accuse me of that crime for allegedly, and here's the exact words from the letter, your unfounded and vicious allegations to the effect that ministers of the association engage in such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape are defamatory. And then he went on to say they're so defamatory that they amount to this criminal act of blasphemous libel. Well, yes, I blogged about some pedophiles and rapists, but I blogged about people who were charged, tried, and convicted and sentenced to jail terms and went to jail. So there was nothing unfounded about them at all. What I blogged was very truthful. So it was just an outright lie. I mean, it was just complete false legal bullying and a misuse of Canada's blasphemy law to hide sex crimes committed by members of the religion.
So nothing ever came of that?
Well, no, nothing ever came of it in the terms of being charged, because I totally destroyed their pretext. When I wrote back to the lawyer, they never went. It's possible that they might have tried to have me charged. I don't know, but if they did,
charged.
I can't. If I was charged with blasphemous libel on that pretext, allegedly I could actually turn around and accuse them of public mischief and making a false report to the police, because my blog posts are by no means unfounded. And in fact, what's interesting? I researched the law. Once I'd never heard of blasphemous libel, so I looked it up. Within minutes of receiving this letter, because I received it by email. And then I later was served by a bailiff. But within minutes of receiving the email that had this letter, I looked up blasphemous libel. I found that we have this blasphemy law. I'd never heard that term before. I knew what blasphemy was, and I knew what libel, but I'd never seen the specific term blasphemous libel. Well, anyway, I looked into the law itself is incredibly vague. It just says, whosoever commits blasphemous libel can go to jail for 2 years. That's all it says. It doesn't even say what blasphemous libel is. You have to go to jurisprudence. So I went to jurisprudence, and what I found is that, essentially it's a blasphemy law. Essentially, in order to be guilty of blasphemous libel, you have to be attacking what is held sacred by the religion. So actually, I didn't do it right away, but one of my later letters to the lawyer said, are you telling me that Unitarian Universalists hold such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape to be sacred and holy to Unitarian Universalism? Just give him a good hard slap, but...
You're having a lot of fun.
Oh, I'm having tons of fun with it. I saved that for a rainy day. I knew this within, I'd say within an hour or so of getting the letter. But my first letter just told him, I'm having considerable difficulty finding blog posts that match your description of unfound, and could you please give, because he never gave any titles or anything in the letter, it was just very general terms. So I said, please identify the blog posts you're talking about with titles or internet addresses, URLs, or dates. Give me something. I knew pretty much which blog posts he was talking about, but I wanted him to properly identify them. He comes back with another letter saying, your claims not to be able to find the offending material are not credible. He's telling me that I'm lying when I say I don't.
They're not credible.
Yeah. So yeah. Wow. So anyway, I wrote back and I said, no, you don't understand. I know where I wrote about pedophiles and rapists are. I don't know where the unfounded blog posts are. You tell me where the unfounded.
Aren't you spending a lot of? I mean, you're.
Well, it's a hobby. It's a hobby. It's a very interesting hobby.
You're a very clever guy. Wouldn't it be more positive to do something useful?
This is useful. You don't think it's useful to expose pedophilia and rape in a religion and cover up? They've been covering this stuff up for decades. They've been hiding. You don't think it's useful to what?
Isn't it all over? Haven't you stopped them from?
No, it's not. No. You know what? No. That's it. They're still trying to hide it. In fact,
the past. Yeah, but haven't they?
No, but no. Even the present. I can tell you right now that there are comparatively recent cases of sexual abuse committed by ministers, and they're still protecting the minister. They're still trying to, keep the minister from facing accountability. They're even legally bullying other people. Like I've heard, or at least threatening. I don't know whether they've, So no, they've outright lied about this in what's supposed to be an apology.
Is this mostly in Canada or the U.S.?
Well, I'm talking mainly about the United States. I don't think Canada is completely free of these kinds of things, but yeah, the U.S. that's where most of the churches are. Exactly. Well, it's a small religion. The Unitarian Universalism is actually tiny compared to most other religions. There's about 100. I'm going to be generous here. There's about 160,000 adult signed up members of the church in all of North America.
Well, that's all in North America, huh?
Yeah.
That's not much. So
it's not exactly
in the U.S.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So one in Canada, a few tens of thousands?
Not even. Back when I joined in the mid 90s, it was about 5,000. I think they're down to around 4,000 now. Maybe even. But I'd say absolute, certainly not more than 5,000 right now, which is tiny. It's. I think there's about 40 churches in Canada. And some of them only have a handful of members. Others have some hundreds. Ottawa has a. Actually, Ottawa has 2 churches. Toronto has maybe 3 or 4.
Your brain and your energy could go into much more positive things.
It does go. I don't spend all my time on this.
You don't.
I do other good stuff too.
Oh, you do, huh?
Oh yeah, for sure.
You're very dedicated to this stuff. You're very dedicated to
this. Because it's not resolved. They need to resolve the issues, They need to deal with the...
Good luck.
Okay, well, nice talking to you. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Looks like they went inside, but great.
I think you went off on
that. Yeah. Okay, great talking to you. Thanks. Yeah, bye-bye. Yeah. So I just had a long conversation with this fellow who asked about the protest. And unfortunately, when he started talking to me, I was near the end of a half-hour segment, and I didn't want to, obviously start filming again to continue, because that might have changed the dynamic of the conversation. But then we saw David Rollert, the husband of the minister, basically standing on the steps and chuckling and laughing. And so I told the guy, I think I'd like to catch that on film. And so I actually, at that point, I started up my camera. And I'm pretty sure he knew that I'd started up the camera, but we continued talking. So we got the end of the conversation. And he seemed to be fine with that. And I never actually did get a video of David Rollert being a jerk. because he went into the church while we were still talking. But yeah, he was out there laughing as if it's some big joke. And no, David Rollard, I hate to tell you, but it is not a joke that you and your wife and every other member of the Unitarian Church of Montreal are totally complicit in every single one of the injustices and abuses that I'm protesting against, and some of which, good day, sir. Yeah. Some of which I was protesting against for more than a decade before your wife even showed up, or at least approximately a decade, maybe not more. David Rollard and his wife, Reverend Diane Olenek Rollard, are 100% complicit in every single injustice and abuse that I'm protesting against, because they've done absolutely nothing to speak out against them. What?
Keep the fight alive.
Thank you. I am. I'm enjoying every second of it. Thank you. So this woman says, keep the fight alive, gives me a fist sign, and says, fuck pedophiles. And yes, David Rollard, and yes, Reverend Diane Rollard, you are both totally complicit in the Unitarian Universalist Association's false, blasphemous libel accusation against me. You have not spoken out against this misuse of blasphemy law in legal bullying that's clearly intended to conceal from the public such despicable crimes as pedophilia and rape committed by Unitarian Universalist ministers, to say nothing of Unitarian Universalist Sunday school teachers, to say nothing of ordinary Unitarian Universalist lay people, and some of whom are prominent lay leaders. You are 100% complicit in that misuse of blasphemy law until such a time as you go on public record speaking out against it. And we're going to look here now at the mission statement of the Unitarian Church of Montreal. This is a comparatively new mission statement. I believe it was created, while Reverend Diane Rollard was the minister. I don't believe it existed when Reverend Ray Drennan was the minister, or Peter Bellotta for that matter. I do believe this was created in the last several years, comparatively recently. And what I like about it is how it's completely devoid of any moral and ethical content. It looks nice on the surface, but it is so vague that it can actually be interpreted in a very negative way. So here we go, one more time. Our spiritual community welcomes, nurtures, inspires, challenges. Together we take action in the world. Well, that sounds all very nice, doesn't it? But it doesn't say what the Unitarian Church of Montreal welcomes, doesn't say what the Unitarian Church of Montreal nurtures, doesn't say what the Unitarian Church of Montreal inspires, doesn't say what the Unitarian Church of Montreal challenges, doesn't say what kind of actions Montreal Unitarians take in the world. Well, the fact of the matter is that the Unitarian Church of Montreal welcomes things and welcomes people who are unethical, immoral, borderline criminal, actually criminal, and I don't mind throwing batshit crazy in there. Some of the things that the Unitarian Church of Montreal welcomes, and some of the actions and words of certain Montreal Unitarians can be properly described as batshit crazy. The Unitarian Church of Montreal nurtures, well, the same things. They nurture immoral and unethical behavior. They nurture even borderline criminal behavior, in the sense that they turn a blind eye to actual criminal behavior by some of their members. Well, maybe they nurture that too. And they inspire, pretty much the same things, because they they do nothing to, speak out against them. And then what do they challenge? Well, they often challenge good things, like my protest against the unethical and immoral and borderline criminal and actually criminal behavior of not just Montreal Unitarians, but Unitarian Universalists more generally. So they actually challenge things that they shouldn't really be challenging. And then, the actions they take in the world. Well, as I said, some actions they take are unethical. Some actions they take are immoral. Some actions they take are borderline criminal. Some actions they take are actually criminal, such as physically assaulting me, such as stealing my picket signs, and so on. And yes, we can throw batshit crazy in there. This just shows how Montreal Unitarians are pretty clueless about morals and ethics. They come up with this fluffy bunny, if you don't mind my use of that term, fluffy bunny vague mission statement that's completely meaningless, that basically doesn't say anything of any real substance about the Unitarian Church of Montreal and how it actually behaves, and in fact can be easily interpreted in a way that's extremely negative, that basically makes it clear, that, they actually welcome pretty bad stuff, they nurture pretty bad stuff, they inspire pretty bad stuff, they challenge pretty good stuff, and they take actions in the world that are immoral, unethical, borderline criminal, actually criminal, and yes, batshit crazy on occasion. I'm not saying everything they do is batshit crazy. I'm not saying everything they do is criminal or borderline criminal. I'm not saying everything they do is immoral and ethical, but they do, in fact, take such actions in the world. Just ignoring this protest for 2 decades is immoral and unethical and so on. So we're going to zoom back out again here, and we'll resume